Quinn, former Manchester City and Sunderland striker, speaking ahead of the Capital One Cup final this Sunday. As a former player for both clubs, how great is it for you to see these two teams doing battle at Wembley?
Yeah, it's good. Delighted for both of them. Two clubs with contrasting recent histories. I was part of Sunderland's come back into the Premier League some years ago, and as the struggle to stay in it intensified, I left. Ellis Short took over, and now he sees his club in a cup final. The Capital One Cup final is fantastic for Ellis and for the people of Sunderland. The people who followed through thick and thin, for the players who've been on a hellish journey in the last 12 months, and they've got a lovely reward now, perhaps at the end of it. So great. My family, my son, who's followed Sunderland all his life, born up there, got so much ribbing over the years. This is his weekend in the sun. Delighted that none of the Man United fans in Ireland are saying nothing to him. The Liverpool fans, he's loving this weekend. So, both personally and kind of professionally, from my time in Sunderland, it's great to see them there. It's really a real tonic for the club, and hopefully it'll prove a big help in them staying up. On the other hand, you've Man City, who are on a kind of I suppose they're on the road to world domination as quickly as possible. It's a totally different scene, and yet it becomes so important for them, I think, mainly because of recent wobbles. What Pellegrini was doing up to 4 or 5 weeks ago, we just stood back in awe, and he seemed to be on a relentless march to the title. There was talk of the 4 competitions going his way, and suddenly that stuttered. Chelsea went up to the Etihad, it gave them a footballing lesson. They haven't quite recovered from that, in my opinion, just now. Barcelona did something similar, they put them to the sword. And now the talk comes out not about the brilliance of Pellegrini and how his team are invincible. It's about that he hasn't won a trophy, and that he could really do with this one to just to keep the whole thing right, and to get his players back in line. And yeah, winning a trophy would do that. Parading a trophy around Wembley would be a great thing for him. So it becomes a very, very important Capital One Cup final.
And you've got a great relationship with both sets of supporters. Are you rooting for any team, or you just want to see them get
Generally, I'm an underdog person, and I'm of the opinion that Sunderland aren't there to make up the numbers. I think they have a bit of a hex over Man City, certainly in home matches over the last few years. They know how to play against them. They're not playing them at their invincible best in the recent games, as I've said. They've got to do an awful lot of off-the-ball work as a team and as a unit to get in that game, and then retain the ball when they're in possession, because if you keep giving it back to that great Man City team, they will eventually find gaps, and someone like David Silva will punish you. So it's a lot to ask for Sunderland, but I'm one of those people who believe that in this competition, Sunderland have been in this position before. Against Chelsea, nobody gave them much of a hope. Mourinho put out a really strong team. Sunderland dealt with it. Manchester United over 2 legs, Sunderland came through. I believe it's not a foregone conclusion. I think Man City will be expected to win by everybody, but I just believe Sunderland have a say in this game, and if they can stifle and contain Man City, for long periods, and as I say, retain the ball. If you start getting into the second half, start getting to 50, 60 minutes, and the Man City haven't made a breakthrough, I think then the game it's 50-50 then. And I think that's what Gus Poyet will try and get them to do. This isn't about Sunderland going out and charging caution to the wind and charging into an early lead. This is about containing a really good Man City side, and I have faith in Gus Poyet that his tactics will prove okay.
And can Sunderland take any inspiration in seeing what Wigan did last year at Wembley, what they did to Manchester City? Can Sunderland look at that as a platform and think they can do the same?
Yeah, it's there. It should be in part of their build-up, that they know they're not playing an invincible team. The recent history of that competition, Birmingham, beat Arsenal. Mind you, they got relegated not long afterwards, so maybe it's not a great analogy to gain confidence from. But the fact of the matter is, Wembley is a leveller. Sometimes form doesn't quite work out the way it should, and Wigan proved that last year. They deflated Man City in many respects because they stopped the relentless onslaught of attacks. They held on to the ball at the right times, and the tactics that I just spoke to you about. It's more so than just getting belief from what Wigan did. Actually looking and seeing how did Wigan do it, and maybe doing something similar. I think they can take more than just inspiration from it.
And many people have said that the Capital One Cup is not a major trophy anymore. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's right back in vogue. I've watched virtually all of the games so far in the tournament, and I can't remember whether it's Capital One Cup or any of the League Cup runs that had such drama. The penalty shootout at Old Trafford to see Sunderland through to this final. I mean, that was enthralling viewing around the world. Some called it the worst penalty shootout ever. I was in Sunderland last week. It's known as the best shootout ever. I think it's been a great year for the League Cup, the Capital One Cup as it's known, and it can go from strength to strength now. It goes back for me to be an important part of the calendar.
And Manchester City and Sunderland are both opposite ends of the table. City are gunning for the title and Sunderland are in a relegation scrap. What impact can this result have on Sunday for the rest of the season? Can Sunderland build momentum?
Well, if we talk about Sunderland first, as far as Sunderland are concerned, whatever the result, they've got to be refocused on Monday for a totally different competition that they have to stay up in, because obviously the Premier League is the place to be. That doesn't mean that this isn't a huge game and that they mustn't be totally prepared and totally focused on it. But the problem is the after spill, win, lose or draw, what it means to the remaining games that have to be played in the Premier League. So it's a difficult thing to do, but now's not the time really to get overcomplicated on it for Sunderland. But Gus Poyet will have to temper euphoria if they've won, because you see Birmingham do them no favours. First and foremost, and get the players and the dressing room refocused straight afterwards. It could be a great day for the club, but the reality is it'll be over, and it'll be another big sort of heave to try and get the club up the table. But in fairness to Gus, they've looked dead and buried at times. They've come back. They've responded to the challenge. Games are starting to pile up. They had a couple of games cancelled because of or postponed until this competition was out of the way and the weather and what have you. So there's going to be a fixture pile up. But if they win it, to take the positivity from that, to have the euphoria of the crowd, and to have full house for the rest of the season of screaming Mackems, on your side, that would be a huge help. So for Sunderland, it's got all sorts of concoctions for why it should be helpful to them. For Manchester City, I think first and foremost, it's about the manager. I think the manager 6 weeks ago, none of us realised, we hadn't read anything in the paper about him never winning a trophy. In the last few weeks, especially with what Chelsea did to them and what Barcelona did to them, and the struggles that they've had in league matches, Norwich for instance, we're now saying the man hasn't won a trophy. When's he going to win a trophy? So it becomes very special for him. So his desire to win this trophy has probably increased tenfold in the last few weeks. And that again is great for the competition. It's great for the importance of it. For the players themselves, they're highly paid. They're supposedly the best in the world. Their owners are in a hurry to get to the top of world football, and they've got to win games like this. That's what they're paid for. They're highly paid. They're the best. They're a better team than Sunderland. Nobody will argue with that. But on the day, Wembley has done it before, and the heroes are born on days like this, and that's why the game, the build-up, everything has been superb. And I'll put my neck on the block. I'll say the hex sign that Sunderland have had over Man City in games in recent years may just continue, and I'll put Sunderland to have their noses in front.